No, everybody say throw your hands in the air. If you got a big dong, use a player and break it down. Mm-mm, 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 mm, 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 mm. Anyway, let's go back to the video. Today we're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. All right, but seriously, there is news that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the IP, is coming up not only for a rebid, but it's just going to be open to the highest bidder. And so they're looking for buyers. They're looking for something that's going to come out with a new iteration of it. Do we actually need this? This is going to be a way more lighthearted, as if you couldn't tell, video. But yeah, let's just go straight into the article and don't expect it to be extremely serious. Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights up for grabs, sending Hollywood foaming at the mouth. They need some water, or they're probably afraid of it because of the rabies. But a number of bold-faced names have been mentioned as showing interest, including Glenn Powell and Andy Muschietti. I can't stand it. Okay, so after Andy Muschietti, who was known for Mama and then the two It movies, which were okay, they were passable, they were decent. I like the first It way better than the second It. But he also did The Flash, so that's great. He's also had some drama coming up with some of his new films, but let's not stay on that too long because another long-standing IP has hit the market, drawing up major interest from producers and studios. And the day after it was revealed, W&E was shopping rights to Jason Bourne and titles from the Robert Ludlum. Texas Chainsaw Massacre also hit it. And this is one thing that I know. Horror movies, as long as they're shot on a low budget, which horror is basically built for a low budget, you want to use practical effects. You don't want to like use a bunch of CGI. A lot of the times you can use unnamed or a lot of the times unskilled actors, so you can cut costs at every single corner and make it great. Now let's look at our boy and what he did with the Terrifier franchise, what they did with Paranormal Activity. A lot of these things, big budget horror movies don't really exist, and when they try to exist, they inevitably flop. You make something for $6 million, it makes $50 million, you're rolling in the money. Now, it is quite early in the process to determine who is involved, where it will land, but the participation of some bold-faced names like Glenn Powell, since it is from Texas and he's from Texas. But here's the thing, though. Do we really want Glenn Powell in a movie where you know he's going to die? Because Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you got your final girl. And that final girl has to be completely mentally distraught and broken. So we can't cast Rachel Zegler in that because despite her career being distraught and broken, her mentality stays just as rigid as ever. Legendary Pictures has held the rights to the property since 2017 and made a movie in 2022 that streamed on Netflix. I actually don't think I've watched that movie. I want to say that I've watched all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, but apparently this one I missed. And let's be real. After 2003 and maybe the beginning as well, but I think that came out in 2007. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, those were the last ones that actually had anything of value to put on the screen. I don't really see this. I mean, it's the same recycled formula. I don't really see this having, what are you going to do new? There's really not much. We got the best stuff like way back when Toby Hooper did it in the 70s. And then we got some really good stuff. I think Jonathan Liebsman was the director for the 2003 one, Jessica Biel. I actually think that was a really, really good adaptation. And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, which I'm just going to hold to that. 2007 without looking it up. I'm going to hold to that. That one was pretty decent. But there's not really much more to go with that character. There's not really much more to go with that franchise. There's not many more stories that could be told. I mean, The Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses had it right. You had your characters, you had your evil, sadistic family, and you do your movies, you do them well, you do them the way you want to do them, and then you let them go and you move on to other things. Just let Leatherface live on with the horror that was caused way back in that original, way back, the reimagining of the original. Just let it leave there, but a sequel never materialized. That's funny for Hollywood. And this is exactly what they're trying to do now. It's like they'll call it a reimagining. It's literally just going to be a sequel because they can't use the original characters. The IP returned to the rights holders, Exerbia Films, which is run by Pat Cassidy, the original movie's co-screenwriter Kim Hinkle and son, who then turned to the representative at boutique agency Verve. We've heard a lot about Verve recently. And I know this is going to be a little bit quick today because there's not really much to report. It talks about the icon of the genre. It talks about how he made it for a shoestring budget, the high interest in Texas Chainsaw as an IP as a whole, and also especially around Halloween time. It underscores the interest and underscores the value of the IP because it's not locked down by a media company. Now, once someone gets those rights, will they actually do anything of value with it? Most of the time, no. And my money is on no. But if you like we said, it was going back to budget, horror movies. If you keep it at a very low shoestring budget cost, if you keep it like a $10-12 million movie, we're not trying to pay someone like Glenn Powell. We're not trying to hire someone like Andy Muschietti, who has seen bigger production budgets. We're not trying to see any of that stuff. We want someone who loves horror for the sake of horror and wants to be hands-on, wants to do everything themselves. Someone who actually has passion and fervor and verve for it. That's what makes true great horror. It also shows how horror remains a hot genre that will get eyeballs on the screens. Horror hasn't really changed. Since the freaking Giallo days of the 70s, we had Suspiria. We had Zombie 2, George Romero's. That was not Giallo, but we had the full cheese and that kind of stuff. It hasn't really changed. It's always had its niche following, but that following remains extremely vigorous and coming out and supporting these kind of things. Thing is, there's not that many of them. Now, the ones that do love it with a complete passion, and they will fight to the death over that kind of stuff. But you can't be charging exorbitant amounts of money for something that looks pristine when the whole point of horror is that it's not supposed to look pristine. I mean, Robert Eggers actually did really good in Nosferatu by making it look pristine, but even on a smaller budget. I actually really like that movie because it was all atmospheric. A lot of the times you get that atmosphere and that sense of dread from things being a little bit less produced. It makes you feel like you're in there in the video. I mean, in the movie. You are living the experience that your characters are living. They're not famous Hollywood actors where you're just like, oh, yeah, they got way too much makeup on. And I was like, no, girl's pretty. Looks like the girl down the block. Yeah, dude's like, okay, he probably played football in high school. And it's not 20 years later where he's just at the bar drinking it up, still wearing his Letterman jacket. But it's like, okay, those look like real people, and these extraordinary things are happening to these real people. That's what makes horror actually hit with some gravitas towards you. That's what makes it scary, is that this happened to these people, it could happen to you too. That's what really gets your brain churning and gets you into the mindset of what true horror really is. And that's exactly what Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Tobe Hooper's 1974 version actually did, and was something that completely changed cinema forever. But in my opinion, that's basically where we should leave it. No more Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. You're just going to muck it up. I mean, it's becoming to the point where I think there's more of those than there are of Saw movies, although Saw is making a run for the title because I think 11 or 12 is about to come out as well. I don't even know where they are with that anymore. There becomes a point, especially with the final, not the Final Fantasy, golly, I keep trying to say that, Friday the 13th movies, where it becomes farcical. Now, Friday the 13th was always a little bit whimsy. I wouldn't call it science fiction, but it was fantasy. It was fantasy horror. It was something that couldn't be nailed down because it all happened in your dreams. This is something that should be like gritty and actually could happen to you. There's a point where it becomes farcical because it's just the same person with the same story. There are no other iterations of it. Let's keep it that way. Why don't we? This is Multi from Mouth of Multi, and my mouth gets tongue-tied quite a bit. Y'all have a great day. Leave anything you want to say down in the comment section below. Feel free to talk about anything. I really don't care. But be respectful. Bye-bye, guys. Actually, I might actually start the video like that. Why not? It's my fucking channel.